Barak Yahweh, Barak Yahweh Shah, Yahweh, Baha Hashem, Yahweh Shah, Baha Hashem, Purha Nagash. All praises, honor, glory, love, respect, faith, and power, and trust, and all credit to my Heavenly Father, Yahweh, and my Heavenly Big Brother, Yahweh Shah. Thank you so much for what you've done, what you're doing, and what you're going to do. Double honors to the apostles and elders and bishops of GMS, Great Millstone, who I learned from, and all the men scattered all over the world, teaching this truth and none but the truth in the name, spirit, and the power of Yahweh Bashem Shah. Trying to put a spiritual bug in you Hebrew Israelites' ears, you so-called blacks, Latinos, Hispanics, Native Americans, Seminole Indians, and you speckled birds. And what is a speckled bird? That'd be a Hebrew Israelite that look like some of the heathen nations, like for example, Hebrew Israelite that look like so-called white person, so-called Chinese person, etc., etc. Got some videos lined up on global financial woes. And I'm going to play these videos. I'm going to get into the scripture my best ability, say whatever God say through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Shah, the Holy Spirit, the Kurah Padash, Lord, want to be on me. Let's get it.
All right, y'all, so this is always good. It's always good when we're talking about a Great Depression. Love that. Love that for us. So the Telegraph says, AI boom risks global financial crash, warn central bankers. Reversal of excessive tech investments could have serious economic consequences, report finds. Debt-fueled spending on AI is driving up the risk of a global financial crisis, central bankers have warned. The Bank for International Settlements, BIS, said on Sunday that excessive spending on new AI data centers and opaque transactions risk a financial meltdown similar to the global credit crunch nearly 2 decades ago. Let me pause to point out, this has been something that's caught my attention previously. It really does appear to be some sort of a scam, the way that the different tech companies and AI companies sort of shovel money back and forth to each other. And then that's then used as like evidence that something big is happening, that, you know, increase investment from others. And like really it's just this weird sort of Ponzi scheme, scam type situation where they're shoveling money back and forth to try to reinflate the bubble to prevent it from popping. But there's only so many tricks you can do before reality catches up. I mean, that's the thing that's going to come back to haunt these people, is that eventually reality always catches up, bro. There's no way around that. So they say the BIS, known as the Bank for Central Banks, said there was growing peril in financial markets from the complex web of financial ties between AI giants, shadow banks, and data center builders unraveling. Financial stability could be at risk in the event of an AI bust, the BIS said. Should hyperscalers slow or halt the aggressive pace of capital expenditure deployment, many borrowers across the supply chain could struggle to replace lost revenue and service their debt. The opacity of AI sector financing compounds these vulnerabilities. Pablo Hernandez de Cos, the BIS general manager, said there were major questions about whether the boom would benefit the wider economy and warned a reversal of AI exuberance could have serious economic consequences. That's the other thing, right? Even if they're right about all the promises of AI, that doesn't actually benefit the economy more broadly, because it's like a nuclear bomb to the way the system works. It requires a rewiring of the way everything works, because they're openly saying they want AI to take everybody's job. Okay, well, if AI takes everybody's job, what do those people do? There's not enough government safety net to help these people, and they can't just get a job because AI is taking all the jobs.
And, you know, the funny thing, they just now come out with some news, and I got some videos about this shit a little later on. They talk about, and it's been going on for quite a bit, I'll say about last year, when it's AI firing, well, people getting fired due to AI replacing their jobs. Now it's backfiring on the companies, and they realize, oh, we need humans back. Yeah, we need humans back. And yeah, there's some videos here I got related to that. But anyway, let me get back to this video.
So what the fuck do you want from them? So it's almost like AI by definition cannot be good for the economy in the short run. You can make some sort of theoretical argument about how in the long run, if we usher in a fully automated luxury communism, then it's fine, but we're not in the long run, and we have no plan in place, and there is no reworking and rewiring and retooling of the economy. And so it's just like we're waiting for the bubble to burst. And honestly,
is people shooting off fireworks? I think so. I'm hearing some booming, but I don't know if that's fireworks. Cause I'll be wondering when my dog gonna scratch the door, cause usually she's scared of that shit.
the bubble bursting is the least bad of all bad scenarios, because if the bubble burst, at least it was all hype.
Hell nah, she chilling. She just laying out down the patio. Anyway.
And then eventually people will have jobs again, right? All right, they say one risk is that large-scale investment in AI infrastructure becomes excessive as each firm tries to outcompete rivals and dominate market share. This could leave the sector more vulnerable if AI underdelivers, possibly bringing the current investment boom to an abrupt end with large macroeconomic consequences. America dominates venture capital AI investments. Whoa, look at this. Holy shit, it really does. Jesus Christ. The BIS warning is one of the strongest yet on risks lurking in the AI boom. The Bank of England warned in December that share prices were now the most stretched they had been since the 2008 crash. Oh, well, that's always good. The International Monetary Fund has also compared AI valuations to the excesses of the dot-com bubble. See, that's interesting. So really what we're looking at here is it's both of those combined. The 2001 crash and then the 2008 subprime mortgage crisis and Great Recession together. And that seems kind of catastrophic, doesn't it? That seems kind of catastrophic. Big tech groups such as OpenAI and NVIDIA have turned to complex financial transactions to fund AI's development, with bot developers often receiving loans from chip makers to buy the chip makers' microchips. Shadow banks, known as private credit funds, have also piled money into AI data centers to benefit from rising demand for the new technology. The shadow banking industry is where companies borrow from funds and private equity houses rather than banks. It has expanded rapidly in recent years as regulators around the world have tightened the rules governing mainstream banking. That's crazy. So it's like a loophole to do more sketchy things as a bank. Jesus Christ.
I'm going to stop right there. If you want to watch the rest of the video, be my guest. They go to title, they go to channel. Let's continue on. What else we got? There's so much shit going on. I've been sitting on these videos for a while, man. I don't even know what they're about. I don't watch any of these videos. The only time I watch them is when I'm doing this, making a video, and I can't even watch all of it because it's going to take too long to watch. Or I don't want to make the video too long. Let's see what this is about.
Let's try to guess how much these e-com websites built with Wix make. Poking.
Demand here hangs on national pride. This week, it's Canada Day and yet another test of Canada's relationship with the U.S.
If the conversation doesn't, end up being positive, we will probably see another slight surge where consumers want to remind the world how proud they are to be Canadian.
President Donald Trump's attacks on Canada have brought a welcome boost for this business, but tariffs have also hurt sales of its custom flags south of the border.
Some of our clients have stood by us and said, it doesn't matter, you're who we've always worked with, we'll take on, the additional costs. Other clients haven't been, able to necessarily do that.
Tariffs and trade tensions contributed to a weak start to the year for Canada's economy, but data for April shows signs of strength across the oil sector, manufacturing, even construction.
It really should put an end to the speculation that Canada is in a recession.
We have a relatively optimistic forecast for the economy as we...
Shit, really, is a depression. And all this shit, all this financial woes is leading... It's coming to that chipping plan. I'll just get straight to the point. The market of beast. Heck yeah. It's going to catch a lot of people off guard. Anyway. But it won't catch you off guard. Let me say that again, because it didn't sound right. It's not going to catch you off guard. Especially when you're hearing this news already and you believe it's going to happen. And you're trying your best to put your faith and trust in your how about your mouth shop.
Maneuver through these difficult times.
Why? Well, if energy prices keep easing, Canadians could have more money to spend. Government efforts to speed up project approvals and break down internal trade barriers could encourage more business investment. And many economists expect Canada, the U.S., and Mexico will reach some sort of trade deal.
I think...
Yeah, it's funny, them three countries. Man, it just remind me of them three countries got a underground highway, mostly under America. It connects from Mexico under America to Canada. Hell yeah, there's not no conspiracy theory. They tell that shit openly on the news. They're talking about they got an underground highway. So you ain't no telling what the fuck they do. They're shipping underneath the country. Anyway.
We will continue to have an agreement. We're not looking forward to it being completely disbanded.
Still, if the result is an annual review, there's worry that uncertainty could hold some businesses and the economy back.
This sort of persistent uncertainty and tariffs in general are a significant downside risk to economic activity.
Trade stability would mean more confidence to invest and hire for this company.
If not, then we focus on what we can control.
And keep helping Canadians show their national pride in the moments that matter. Jacqueline Hansen, Global News, Toronto.
The European Parliament's Economic and Monetary Affairs Committee voted to approve the digital euro, which is a sovereign digital currency issued and backed by the European Central Bank that will allow any citizen in the Eurozone to hold, send, and receive money through a dedicated wallet without passing through any American-owned payment infrastructure. The vote clears the way for a plenary session in Strasbourg in early July, followed by negotiations with the EU's 27 member states, with a final agreement targeted before the end of this year and a launch expected by 2029. Italian MEP Pascal Tridico, who negotiated the file, called the vote historic and described it as a major victory for citizens and small businesses. And Euronews, the outlet that broke this story, put the purpose of the legislation in the headline itself: to reduce U.S. dominance in payments. That is not this channel's framing. That is the European Parliament's. Essentially, Europe just changed its relationship status with Uncle Sam to "it's complicated," and then immediately untagged him for all of their photos. My name is Elle, and I use data analysis to spot patterns in geopolitics and economics, and the reason this vote matters is contained in a single data point published by the European Central Bank. Visa and MasterCard MasterCard, both American companies, both subject to American law, both ultimately answerable to American regulators, currently account for 61% of all card payments in the euro area. For cross-border card transactions within Europe, the figure is nearly 100%. Every single time a French citizen pays for dinner in Rome, or a German tourist buys a train ticket to Madrid, or a Dutch company invoices a Belgian supplier, that transaction passes through American infrastructure, is processed under American jurisdiction, and generates revenue for American shareholders. In essence, a croissant bought in Paris is technically whispering its secrets to a server in Virginia. It's giving major financial stalker energy. The digital euro is designed to change this, not by banning Visa and MasterCard outright, they will still continue to operate, but instead by building a sovereign alternative that ensures Europe always has another option. This channel covered Wero, the private sector European payment system built by 16 major banks across 13 countries, in a different video this year that I'm going to link below. Wero handles retail transactions between consumers and merchants. The digital euro operates at a different level. It is central bank money, as legally valid as a banknote, backed by the full authority of the European Central Bank, usable online and offline, and designed with privacy protections that the ECB itself describes as stronger than any existing digital payment method. The ECB will provide the underlying infrastructure. Commercial banks and payment providers will offer the wallets and services to customers. Merchants will pay fees that are expected to be lower than current card transactions costs, and critically, the system will support offline payments, meaning two people can transfer digital euros to each other without an internet connection using near-field communication on their phones, the same way you would hand somebody cash, basically, which means you can finally split that bill at
we can probably have the same feature by doing that with a chip implant. Well, then again, I don't know. Because would the chip implant store money? I don't think so, because your money going to be stored on the cloud. It's just that chip implant going to be the key to unlock that shit. Anyway, I don't know, but anyway.
Underground Berlin rave without the US government judging your lifestyle choices or your data connections. If you've been following this channel's coverage of European financial sovereignty, this is the central bank part. Wero is the commercial layer. The ECB's permanent repo lines, which we covered in the Euro report video, are the institutional layer for central banks worldwide. And the digital euro is the currency layer, the sovereign digital money that sits underneath both and that no foreign government can freeze, sanction, or just switch off. The geopolitical context makes the timing unmistakable as well. China's digital yuan has already processed over 3.4 billion transactions worth 2.4 trillion US dollars. Russia has announced that its digital ruble will become operational in September 2026. That's very soon. India, Brazil, Nigeria, and over 100 other countries are developing or piloting central bank digital currencies. The United States is the only major economy that has explicitly abandoned CBDC development. That acronym stands for central bank digital currency. Trump signed an
Yeah, they abandoned it, but they still have something that's just like CBDC, stablecoin. Anyway.
executive order killing the Federal Reserve's digital dollar project and instead backed private stablecoins, crypto assets pegged to the dollar and issued by private companies. The administration's argument is that stablecoins reinforce dollar dominance because they require issuers to hold dollar reserves, but stablecoins are not sovereign money. They are corporate products subject to the same market risks, counterparty risks, and regulatory uncertainties as any other private financial instrument. When every other major economy is building sovereign digital currencies and the United States is building
sovereign? CBDCs ain't sovereign. What the whatever.
Building private ones, the structural implications for the dollar's long-term position are significant. While the rest of the world is building state-of-the-art public transit, Washington is essentially trying to run a global economy on unregulated tech-bro hoverboards. If you're trying to understand how to read through financial infrastructure decisions and see what the structural dynamics underneath actually show, my book Awake the Practice of Critical Thinking in an Age, because digital euro's privacy architecture is worth understanding as well, because it addresses the single biggest public concern about central bank digital currencies, the fear that governments will use them for surveillance.
Yeah, and they will. And guess what? In order to be part of that system, you're going to have to get a chip implant.
The European Central Bank has designed the system so that it cannot directly identify users from their payment data. Offline transactions are fully private, no intermediary sees them at all. Online transactions pass through commercial banks that hold the customer relationships, but the ECB itself does not have access to individual transaction records. The privacy model is closer to cash than to a credit card, basically, and that design choice is not at all accidental. The ECB studied the failed launch of Nigeria's e-Naira, where adoption collapsed because citizens did not trust the government's assurances about data, and concluded that privacy is not a feature to be marketed marketed, but a structural requirement to be built into the architecture from the first line of code. The compensation model for banks remains the most contentious unresolved issue right now. 3 sources familiar with the negotiations told Euronews that how commercial banks are paid for distributing and maintaining digital euro wallets is still being debated. Banks fear disintermediation, that customers will hold digital euros directly with the ECB rather than keeping deposits in commercial accounts. The holding limit, which has not yet been set, is designed to prevent exactly this. If the limit is set too high, deposits migrate from banks to the European Central Bank. If it is set too low, the digital euro becomes impractical for everyday use. It's a delicate economic tightrope walk between actually useful and making commercial bankers cry into their espressos. The final number, of course, will determine whether the digital euro functions as a genuine payment tool or as a symbolic policy statement. This channel will definitely cover the outcome when the negotiations conclude on this one. The architecture Europe is basically building across payments is now 3 layers deep, and all 3 are moving simultaneously. Wero, 48 million users across 13 countries, handling instant person-to-person and point-of-sale transactions on European rails. The ECB's permanent repo lines, making euro liquidity available to any central bank on the planet without depending on the Federal Reserve. And now the digital euro, sovereign central bank money that can be held, sent, and spent by any Eurozone citizen without touching American interest.
Oh, goddamn, is it? Damn, is it thundering or is that fireworks? Yeah, a lot of rumbling.
Infrastructure at any point in the whole transaction chain. Every layer serves technically a different function, but together they form a payment sovereignty stack that has no equivalent anywhere in the world, because no other economy has built all 3 layers at the same time, while simultaneously being the world's largest trade bloc and the issuer of the world's second most important reserve currency. In terms of what's going to happen next, my prediction is that the digital euro regulation will likely pass its plenary vote in July and enter trilogue negotiations with member states before the autumn. The holding limit will likely be set between maybe 1,500 and 3,000 euros, high enough to be functional, low enough to protect bank deposits.
Alright, anyway. Well, let it finish up playing.
Digital euro will launch in pilot form, I think, by late 2028 and reach general availability across all Eurozone countries probably by 2030. Visa and MasterCard's combined share of European card payments will likely fall below 50% within 5 years of the digital euro's launch, not because they will be banned, but because a sovereign alternative with lower fees, stronger privacy, and no jurisdictional risk becomes the default for an increasing share of daily transactions. In the 61% figure that the ECB published this year, the share of European payments controlled by 2 American companies will probably become the benchmark against which the digital euro's success is measured. I think that number will go down, the sovereignty will go up, and Europe's payment system stops running through Virginia. It's not you, Virginia, it's us. Actually, wait, it's definitely you. But the digital euro is only the latest layer in a payment sovereignty stack that started with Wero. I made a separate video on how Europe's 16 largest banks built a continental payment system designed to ensure that the next time Washington reminds Europe it can switch off the rails, Europe can basically say, go ahead, we built our own. That's the video that I would watch next. Go watch that one next before America tries to copyright the play button.
Welcome back. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you to those of you who have become paid subscribers on YouTube, Substack, and Patreon. Your support enables me to produce this content. Over the next several weeks, I will be hosting my very first Q&A. I'm very excited about that, and I will share more details soon, and I will also provide more information on how you can submit your questions. So if you're interested, please stay tuned. Now, let's get to the topic of today's video. The global economy is undergoing a massive, truly massive historic transformation right now, and every single one of us will be impacted. For many decades, globalization appeared unstoppable. Supply chains stretched across continents, goods moved freely across borders, capital actually flowed with unprecedented ease, and the United States dollar became the foundation of the international financial system. Many economists believe that increasing economic interdependence would not only promote prosperity, but also reduce geopolitical conflict. Well, today, some of the world's leading economists are warning that the era may be coming to an end, and coming to an end fast. And with that, the era of the United States dollar being the unchallenged dominant currency of the world is also ending. The chief economist of the International Monetary Fund recently issued a stark warning about the future of the global economy. According to the IMF, the world faces growing risks from what it describes as, quote, tit-for-tat economic warfare. Tariffs, sanctions, export controls, trade restrictions, and geopolitical rivalries are increasingly reshaping the global economic system. Even more concerning, I would say, the IMF fears that the current fragmentation of trade could eventually spill over into the financial system itself, potentially reducing dependence on the United States dollar and encouraging the development of alternative payment mechanisms. The top IMF economist Pierre-Olivier Gerinches argues that countries increasingly view economics through the lens of national security and geopolitical competition. Instead of focusing solely on efficiency and free trade, governments are placing greater emphasis on resilience, on strategic autonomy, and on economic security. Now, according to the top economist at the IMF, countries affected by sanctions and trade restrictions are increasingly seeking alternatives. And how could you blame them, really? Rather than accepting economic pressure, they are building new supply chains chains, they are developing alternative trade relationships, and of course, they are seeking to reduce their dependence on countries that they view as geopolitical rivals. And as a result of this, the world economy is becoming less integrated and more fragmented. The IMF fears that this process may accelerate over the coming years, and arguably, there is really no turning point at this time. For much of the post-Cold War period, trade barriers steadily declined, globalization expanded rapidly, and businesses organized production around efficiency and around cost reduction. Companies manufactured goods wherever labor costs were lowest, and there's a good argument to be made that the developed countries continuously exploited the emerging economies, but we will leave that aside, and I will possibly write more on this over my Substack and Patreon. And companies actually built supply chains that crossed multiple continents, and that allowed them to reduce their operational costs and in turn reduce the prices, right? Well, today, that model is actually changing very, very quickly. The United States has imposed tariffs on China. China has restricted exports of critical minerals. Western countries have imposed extensive sanctions on Russia as well. Governments have introduced technology export controls, and many countries have adopted industrial subsidies and investment restrictions in order to support their domestic industries. Economic tools are increasingly being used as instruments of geopolitical competition. That's basically.
And soon they'll be going to war. Well, they already at war, but I mean major war. When World War III goes full throttle. I hope it comes soon, man.
Basically the takeaway here. And the chief economist at the IMF warns that these measures often provoke retaliation, which of course they do. One country's sanctions lead to another country's countermeasures. One round of tariffs leads to
What's the countermeasures?
what? Additional tariffs. That's how it works. And so that creates what the IMF refers to as a tit-for-tat dynamic, in which economic restrictions multiply over time. History demonstrates that such cycles can become very difficult to reverse once they become embedded in national policy. One of the most significant consequences of this new environment is the restructuring of global supply chains. For many decades, companies optimized production networks for efficiency and to effectively lower their operational costs. While today, many governments and businesses are prioritizing security and resilience, as I mentioned before, and the concept of quote-unquote friend-shoring has become increasingly popular, which encourages companies to move production toward politically aligned countries. Firms are diversifying suppliers, they are reducing dependence on individual countries with whom they may have disagreements, and they are seeking greater supply chain security. Industries such as semiconductors, batteries, pharmaceuticals, rare earth minerals, and energy infrastructure are increasingly treated as strategic sectors. The IMF now argues that countries affected by sanctions and by tariffs are not simply accepting these restrictions. And why would they? Of course, they need to pursue their own interests, and they do to the extent possible. Instead, they are creating new economic relationships, and they're creating alternative markets. For example, China, let's take China. China has expanded trade with countries in the global south. Russia has redirected much of its trade toward Asia, and Europe is pursuing new trade agreements. BRICS countries continue to discuss alternative payment systems, and I recently had an expert interview about the future of the BRICS bloc, so definitely check it out if you haven't watched that video yet. It's a very, very interesting one, and I think it will surprise you in many different ways. So the result may not be the end of globalization just yet, but rather its reorganization, let's say, into competing economic blocs. Perhaps the most important aspect of the IMF's warning concerns financial fragmentation. So let's focus on that next. Trade fragmentation is very significant, but fragmentation of the financial system would represent a far more profound transformation. The United States dollar remains the dominant international currency. Most international trade transactions, foreign exchange reserves, cross-border banking activities, and commodity transactions continue to rely on the dollar, despite the fact that its role has been weakening. And interestingly enough, the IMF emphasizes that the world remains firmly centered on the US dollar, but there are challenges to the dominance. The IMF states that there is currently very little evidence that countries are abandoning the dollar per se. However, the IMF warns that the situation is gradually evolving over time, so it is definitely changing. If countries increasingly fear that access to the dollar-based financial system could be restricted through the United States sanctions or other types of financial pressure, those countries may seek alternatives, and they would be wise to do so. This does not necessarily mean that the dollar is about to collapse. Nevertheless, gradual diversification, it has already begun. Around the world, countries are already exploring alternative financial arrangements, even though, of course, these arrangements require vast resources, vast investments. China has
You need an LLC. It's protecting you. It's keeping your business and personal life separate. So go to Taylor Brands, enter your...
Has expanded the international use of the yuan in trade settlements. In fact, it seeks to strengthen the role of its currency internationally. BRICS nations, of course, continue discussing payment systems that are designed to reduce dependence on Western financial infrastructure, and that's where regional and local arrangements will come handy. Central banks are experimenting with digital currencies as well, while regional payment systems continue to expand. And at the same time, central banks have significantly increased gold purchases in recent years too, as a result of volatility and instability in terms of the geopolitical sort of environment situation. The IMF recently emphasized that these developments remain relatively small compared to the enormous scale of the dollar-based financial system. Nevertheless, the IMF says fragmentation often occurs gradually rather than suddenly. So it is very, very important to note that even the IMF is issuing a very subtle yet very deliberate and clear warning that the fragmentation has already begun, and don't expect it to be an overnight type of an event. It takes time, and it certainly is already underway. Trade relationships change very fast. They change first, and then they're followed by financial relationships. It is this possibility that concerns policymakers at the IMF the most. Recent events in global energy markets have also reinforced concerns about economic fragmentation. According to the IMF, the release of strategic petroleum reserves helped prevent even larger increases in oil prices during the U.S. and Israel war against Iran.
I'm gonna stop right there, but anyway, if you want to watch the rest of it, they go to the title of the video, they go to channel. Let's get to James chapter 5 verse 1. Go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl, for your measure shall come upon you. Your riches are corrupted, your garments are moth-eaten, your gold and silver is canker, the rust of them shall be a witness against you. Pretty much the US dollar is these other countries. Sometimes, I don't know, when I'm watching this woman's video and she be talking like the dollar is still strong, but it's getting weaker and weaker. I mean, I haven't heard much new news about people selling what they did, treasuries or bonds, and I'm not no financial guru or none of that bullshit. I just want to hear bad news and that's it about the dollar and the collapse of this shit. Cause I want the shit to go forward, man, with the chip implant. That's it. But I'm getting tired of hearing all this. The dollar is still strong and blah blah blah, and it's not going anywhere. And I'm like, yeah, nigga, well, the Lord's gonna make things different, bro. The Lord's gonna make things different, and I hope it comes fast. And shall eat their flesh as with fire. Yeah, farmed up treasures for the last days. Yeah, the dollar ain't shit. And eventually, man, all these currencies, all these physical currencies, they go out and get rid of and replace it with digital currency, and then everybody gonna need a chip. But I don't want no chip. You don't want no chip either. All we want is your how about Shemal Shah to protect us from this crazy ass shit. Anyway, let's get to this. What's going on in China?
Moving on, China is richer and more advanced than many economies in the world.
Really?
But China still refuses to let go of the world's cheapest, simplest manufacturing jobs. And that is squeezing the life out of poorer economies trying to industrialize. A new Peterson Institute study lays out the calculus. Economists Soumitra Chatterjee and Arvind Subramanian call it the China squeeze. The logic is simple. In labor-intensive manufacturing, a country's share of world exports should roughly match its share of the world's lowest skilled workforce. Back in the early 2000s, China's numbers lined up, but that is not the case anymore. Between 2013 and 2022, China's value-added export share among low and middle-income countries stayed locked near 64%. But its labor force share actually fell by 3 percentage points. The gap, what the study calls excess exports, widened from 33 to 36%. In apparel, footwear and leather goods alone, the excess translates into $110 billion in exports, which could belong to poorer nations. This isn't just trade data, it's development policy colliding with geopolitics. The manufacturing-led growth model, the one that lifted South Korea, Taiwan and China itself out of poverty, depends on cheap labor, absorbing global demand. If China keeps occupying that space despite becoming a high-tech economy, the ladder gets pulled up for everyone climbing behind it. The study points to another familiar suspect, an undervalued yuan, alongside wage and productivity distortions that keep Chinese exports artificially competitive, even in sectors it should have outgrown. The fallout is threefold. Crowded export markets, Chinese goods flooding developing countries, own domestic markets, and limited access to China's consumer market in return. For India, Vietnam, Bangladesh, and African economies betting on factories to create jobs, the message from Washington's top trade economists is blunt. that China isn't just competing, it's crowding out. And the bill runs into hundreds of billions of dollars in lost jobs and exports.
University of Phoenix has no tuition gain.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Just as I uploaded my most recent video where I discussed why Europe's biggest economy is crashing, I came across a shocking report about Germany's biggest automaker really struggling to make ends meet. And I will write more on this topic over on my Substack and Patreon. I will include more details because I think this is a very, very important point to discuss given Europe's ongoing militarization, but I thought I should upload a quick video to share a high-level overview. Volkswagen has become a symbol of Germany's economic power. You would agree with me. It was one of the pillars of Germany's industrial model. It employed hundreds of thousands of workers for decades, and it supported entire communities across the country. But today, Volkswagen finds itself at the very center of what may become the largest industrial restructuring in modern European history. According to recent reports, Volkswagen is considering cutting up to 100,000 jobs and potentially ending production at 4 factories in Germany. Now, if you watch my videos, you will remember that Volkswagen closed 1 factory last year in Germany, which was a first in its entire history. If this most recent plan is implemented, which likely it will be, these measures would represent one of the most dramatic corporate downsizings that Europe has ever seen. And the implications extend far beyond just one company. This unprecedented event is directly the result of Germany's economic decline, Europe's manufacturing crisis, rising competition from China, and high energy costs. So let's discuss what is actually happening. To understand the significance of this event, imagine America's largest industrial employer, which is what Volkswagen is in Germany. Imagine America's largest industrial employer eliminating 1/3 of its domestic workforce. That is the magnitude of what Germany is facing today. The company argues that it must reduce costs dramatically in order to remain competitive in an increasingly difficult global market. But why has Volkswagen reached this point? How did it get so bad so quickly?
Well, probably during that deindustrialization shit going on for the past few years, and plus what else was contribute to the to this that's happening? The Nord Stream pipeline or something like that. I think it was Nord Stream pipeline where they was receiving oil and shit from Russia, and that shit got cut off, and I don't know what else. I mean, these niggas going to war with Russia. I mean, I guess I don't know. Anyway.
Well, let's focus on Germany's energy shock first. One major factor is, of course, energy, and we will discuss it first.
Yeah, energy, again, I guess from Russia.
Because in my opinion, this is the main reason why Germany is deindustrializing. For decades, Germany actually built its industrial competitiveness on relatively inexpensive energy, particularly natural gas, that was
from Russia.
Imported from Russia. That model collapsed after 2022, and the
goddamn blew them pipelines up.
Subsequent energy crisis when Germany willfully started reducing consumption of Russia's energy.
Which was stupid too.
German manufacturers suddenly faced electricity.
Yeah, they did, and then they shooting themselves in the foot doing that shit. Yeah, no wisdom in teaming.
And gas prices that were far above those of their direct competitors from the United States, from China, and many emerging economies too. Industries that rely heavily on energy, such as chemicals, steel, automotive, and of course manufacturing, those industries experience substantial increases in operating costs. As you would imagine, Volkswagen factories consume enormous amounts of energy. So to be profitable, they have to import energy at a lower price point. Well, the leadership of Germany refuses to do so. When energy prices rise permanently, and that is a key word to remember here, when energy prices rise permanently, production inside Germany becomes much more expensive. Many companies have begun questioning whether manufacturing should even remain in Germany at all. Now, the second major challenge actually comes from China. Chinese automakers have rapidly expanded their capabilities in EVs. Companies such as BYD and others now produce competitive EVs at lower prices. China dominates battery production. It dominates critical mineral processing, as I discussed in a really detailed article on my Substack and Patreon before, and it also dominates many parts of the EV supply chain. So naturally, Germany is at a disadvantage here. European manufacturers that once enjoyed comfortable profit margins are now confronting highly efficient Chinese competitors both in China itself and now increasingly in Europe. Volkswagen sales in China, which was once its most important market, have weakened considerably. This is especially concerning because...
All right, well, anyway, I ain't gonna play no more. You get the idea. I mean, you get the point. Eat them from Germany to America. To all these, hey man, all these motherfuckers, this shit is coming to an end for them. And it ain't just Edom, it's all these other nations. Shit, she talking all good about China. China built a bunch of losers too. Yeah. Let's get to the next one. Don't be fooled thinking China doing whatever. Shit, China a bunch of losers too.
So Lucid is cutting 18% of their workforce. Why the EV maker is struggling. This is a Barron's story on this topic. So high-end electric vehicle maker Lucid is slashing staff for the second time this year as part of its path towards profitability. The company said Monday morning in a filing with the Securities and Exchange Commission, the stock was down more than 4% on the news and has fallen more than 50% in 2026, while rivals Rivian and Tesla have also fallen by 20 and 9% respectively. Lucid decline has been far steeper. Lucid said it would cut 18% of its workforce, including employees and contractors, for an estimated annual savings of $158 million a year. While the company declined to provide the exact number of affected workers, it reported 9,000 employees globally at the end of 2025, up from 6,800 at the end of 2024. Humberto, your thoughts on the story?
Making cars is hard, and especially in mass production. You burn through money, like putting cars together, like nothing ever before. They had a lot of Saudi money in the start. They became an IPO. Everyone was very hot on this. I think I can be fact checked, but I think they were evaluated over Ford, Pat. These guys were putting out 20,000 cars a year when the whole EV bubble was going on. And their target was 60,000 units, and I think they managed to hit 20,000 units, and they started burning through money.
Yo, I haven't seen none of them damn cars on driving around. Anybody driving no damn cars. They were advertising them suckers. They ain't look that bad, but fuck that shit. I want to be riding no electric car. If I'm gonna ride an electric car, it'd be just a basic car. Something like a AC Cobra or something. Yeah, like an old school kit car. That's all, like an old school kit car with no extra bells and whistles, all that bullshit. Yeah, I'd rather have an electric kit car.
In simple, I think they released the wrong car at the wrong time. What Americans want is a $60,000-ish SUV where they can put the whole family, and they're offering a super luxury S-class competitor that is $100,000. So I don't know. It was a very hot product. And I think bad decisions, they have repercussions. That's the story here.
They had a $1.35 billion revenue, so it's not like this was a small little thing.
Oh, they were.
It was huge, Pat. It was huge.
Can you pull up the cars to see what they look like? I actually want to know what it looks like.
They're nice. They're nice looking cars, but they did have some mixed reviews. You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of Fisker Karma. Do you guys remember the Karma?
He owned a Fisker.
The Karma
is a beautiful car.
Yeah, the second one was very nice.
Fisker Karma, they sold the assets of General Motors at the
Fisker, they definitely gone.
garage sale. And then Fisker.
Tom was an investor in Fisker. Tom was one of the
Fisker 2.0.
The second round. You know, they're both beautiful cars. You can buy an original Fisker for like $25K right now.
But you don't have anywhere to get the parts.
There's no servicing, and they use unique parts.
Yeah, it was a beautiful, beautiful car when it first came out.
And that's a big deal, Pat, if you think about the economics of this.
Alright, that's enough of that. You want to watch the rest of it, be my guest. I just want to throw out the news. I mean, I played a video about this before. But talk about it again, because it's still relevant.
A future legend.
Since AI is changing the job market. And they're going to realize they fucked up by letting AI change the job. Yeah, replacing workers. I get Linux. That's Linux thing. Yeah, whatever. Alright, the point is they're firing 21,000 and probably gonna be more later on down the road. Let's get to what it is talking about Ford. Oh yeah, Ford rehires engineers after AI backlash.
Ford
The victim of bad AI? Will you tell us, did they fall for something? A spam email?
It could have been in a sense. In reality, what we're talking about here is in recent years, Ford has sacked hundreds of its engineers to make room for AI, which it believed would be able to do those folks' jobs for less money. Guess what? It didn't turn out that way. And what's Ford doing now? They're rehiring many of the same workers that they showed the door to so they could come back and do the jobs that AI couldn't do. Now, many of those jobs in question involve quality control. That is, making sure Ford is getting the results it desires on the factory floor. And it turns out
There probably been some fuck ups.
AI lacked the capability to make such judgments. Why? Because it has no gut instincts. And it turns out that when it comes to quality control, being able to eyeball the parts or eyeball the process and make some gut instinct as to how this is going to affect quality overall.
But doesn't mean that AI is out of the game yet, because they just all they gonna do is try to do some little tuning, some tweaking to AI, the visual eyeballs or gut, and then we'll see how it's gonna perform later on. Shit. Yeah.
Overall, that's a distinctly human skill, at least at this point.
Yeah,
so now,
at this point.
Ford is bringing people back to be able to handle that, and guess what? Quality has gone back up in the factories.
Please. What about the parts? How quality is the parts? They cheaply made? Nigga, please. The metal. And damn sure ain't forged metal. They got them cast, and they probably cast, like cheap ass cast metal.
But I'm sorry.
Tin metal.
Say, part of the job of these rehired humans is to train AI to be
Oh shit.
better at the jobs it was supposed to be better at. Human quality has gone back up in the factories, but I'm sorry to say, part of the job of these rehired humans is to train AI to be better at the jobs it was supposed to be better at. Not good for the humans.
Ouch, training your replacement.
Bingo.
Yeah, there ain't nothing new about that, cause hell, with them, with that country, and there's other country doing this shit where they have them headsets, and the cameras watching their hand motions and which way they got these little clampy tool things, whatever the hell it is, that folding. They using these clampy tool things to fold towels and all this other shit, and training AI to do things from the job to the homes and all that shit. Oh my goodness, this place make me fucking sick, man. Yeah, that shit makes me so damn sick. There's some more news about people rehiring their old workers. Yeah, they made a mistake.
The AI industry has invented a brand new business strategy, and I think it deserves to be studied in universities for generations to come. Step 1, fire everyone who knows what they're doing. Step 2, replace them with software that has never done what they do. Step 3, watch the software fail at the parts of the job that actually matter. Step 4, rehire the same people at a higher salary, and then of course, call it all innovation and grab a martini. It's a bit like firing your pilot mid-flight, handing the controls to a very confident toaster, and then calling the passengers back to the cockpit when the toaster can't really land the plane, except the toaster costs $200 million. It needs the pilot to teach it how to fly, and once the pilot has finished teaching it, you're planning to fire the pilot again. Across multiple industries, this is already happening in real time. The pattern is backed by data, documented by researchers, and in one extraordinary case, openly acknowledged by a Fortune 500 vice president on a press call. In this video, I'm going to walk through the companies that fired their humans and had to beg them to come back, the research that predicted this would happen, the new breed of AI-obsessed boss that's creating an entirely novel category of workplace toxicity, and what all of this reveals about an industry that keeps choosing what is easy over what is right. The technology is awe-inspiring. It's also still in training. The question is whether the adults will stay in the room long enough for it to grow up. According to a 2026 survey by Robert Half of 2,000 U.S. hiring managers, 32% of organizations that eliminated a role primarily due to AI or automation later rehired for the exact same position. 1 in 3 employers spend more on restaffing than they saved from the original layoffs. Forrester Research 2026 Future of Work report estimated that 55% of employers who replaced employees with AI regret the decision. That's kind of a large number for what we're talking about, and Gartner projects that by 2027, half of all companies that cut customer service staff for AI will rehire for similar roles, often under new job titles. But perhaps most importantly of all, 73% of organizations that executed AI-driven workforce cuts failed to come out financially ahead. Industry analysts now call this the AI boomerang, which sounds very charming until you realize the boomerang comes back holding an invoice. And of course, the pattern is predictable enough to set your watch by. A company announces it's replacing human workers with AI, the staff is downsized, 6 to 12 months pass, the AI successfully handles about 60% of the job, the routine, repetitive pattern matching portion, but the remaining 40%, well, that's where judgment lives. Escalation, context, institutional knowledge, stuff like that, the things that a human being accumulates over years and decades of experience. The AI can't do them, so the company rehires, often the same people, by the way, and often at higher salaries. Roles that previously paid $55,000 per year are now commanding $75,000 per year or more because the returning employees now need to manage and audit the AI as well. Congratulations, you've invented consulting, but with extra trauma. The examples are mounting across industries. Klarna, which is the poster child for AI replacement, whose CEO proudly announced that their AI agent could do the work of 700 customer service representatives, began rehiring customer service staff when the promised returns failed to materialize. McDonald's deployed AI-driven order-taking bots across 100 US drive-thrus, then shut down the program after viral videos showed the system adding hundreds of dollars of chicken nuggets to simple orders, and then brought human cashiers back, which is a devastating blow to AI development, but kind of a massive win for all of us who have always wanted to buy hundreds of chicken nuggets but have been too shy. IBM replaced its human resources functions with AI that handled 94% of routine requests and failed on the remaining 6%, which included ethical dilemmas and nuanced interpersonal situations. IBM is now tripling its US entry-level hiring. Its chief human resources officer, Nicolas Lemeron, essentially said, if we don't continue to invest in entry-level hires, what happens in 3 to 5 years? There is no pipeline, the well simply dries up. That quote should concern every executive currently celebrating headcount reductions, because the pipeline problem is very serious, very real, and often not talked about enough. If you stop hiring junior employees because AI handles the entry-level work, you lose the training ground that produces your senior employees.
I'm gonna stop right there. This video already long enough, but you get the idea. They fucked up, but hey, that doesn't mean they're gonna stop them from still replacing people with AI. And I know the people they just rehired, they gonna fire them back. She even said that shit too, but they gonna fire them for back once they perfect the little, they fix the kinks and they tweaks and doing this and that for AI. Now they'll be like, yeah, we perfected it now. Now we've gotten better. Now you're fired. Shit. Let me how long this video? 45 minutes. Yeah, long enough. Yeah, I didn't have much scriptures to read, man, but I just want to get in covering what's financial woes that's going on around the world, not in America, but just in other countries around the world. But then not just financial. Well, it's financial too, the jobs. But anyway, just shit that's involving industry, finances, jobs, all that shit. Anyway, let's get to the scripture. I'm gonna close out. I just want to report the news and get to the scripture to my best ability. What the hell are you doing? You're down here coughing and shit. Should be weird as hell. I want to tell you one thing before I read. I want she be on some weird shit. I go downstairs, I get some treats for it, like 4 different types, or 4 treats. 3 of them is some biscuits, and one is one of them teeth cleaning treat, which they don't do shit. I put them all in her cage on her bed. She got a bed in her cage. I put them all there, and she usually eat her treats in one room. So what she do? She grab 1 treat at a time. Instead of just eating the treats in the bed, she'll take 1 treat, take it to that room, eat that up, go back to her bed, take that treat, take it to the back room, eat that up, go back to her bed, take that treat, and she repeated all that shit till it's all gone. And I'm like, why don't you just eat that shit in one fucking place? It's like, I don't understand this shit. But she be weird doing shit. Anyway, Ecclesiastes chapter 12, Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 3. In the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, the people that's running financial systems, like the banks, the stocks. Nigga, I know damn well you don't want to go out. Man, all them folks shooting guns and now your asses want to go outside. You scratch the door because you scared of all that noise. Anyway, the people that's running the financial system, they're not bothered to fix this shit. Yeah, it can't be fixed anyway because the Lord's breaking it down. But anyway, and those that look out, I'm skipping stuff. And the strong man shall bow themselves, and the grinder cease because they're few. Yeah, grinders gonna cease because there's not much work and workers to accomplish the jobs, but they got AI replacing it, but AI ain't doing a good job, and they want to rehire the old workers. But anyway, it's a whole bunch of mess, and I don't really give a fuck. It's a mess, and I wanted to get more messier. And those that look out the windows be dark, and it's gonna be looking grim and bad. Yep, the future not just of America, but the rest of the world. It's looking pretty bad for a lot of people. And those that look out the windows be darkened. I already said that. And the door shall be shut in the street. Big business, small business closing up. Like Volkswagen closing up factories, plants and shit. Man, they were the shit. That ain't the shit no more. That shows you, man. The end is coming. The end is here. We at this bitch. Heck yeah. You got big ass companies, multi-billion-dollar or either trillion-dollar companies going to shit. I love it. And a lot of them companies closing up because they getting ready. I guess they getting ready for war. Because I remember they was about to use Volkswagen to manufacture war equipment and shit or whatever, war vehicles or something. And they about to get down to that point. They already doing that now. I don't know. I guess they trying to retrofit their facilities, and they don't need that many hands working or that many people working at the company anymore. But anyway, where I left off at. And the door shall be shut in the streets. When the sound of the grinding is low, the sound of work be brought down low. He shall rise up at the voice of the bird by their alarm clock, or the birds, tweeping, or either a rooster crowing. All the daughters of music shall be brought low. Music suck. And that's all I got to say. But hopefully the videos were informing and hopefully it was edifying. I know it probably wasn't as much, but I'm trying to do my best, nigga. I can't do everything in a perfect way. But yeah. But seek the Lord by seeking the prophet, and take heed what to say, and try to build a spiritual mental relationship with Yahweh Shema Shah by praying Yahweh Shema Shah, praising Yahweh Shema Shah, worshiping Yahweh Shema Shah, fearing Yahweh Shema Shah, and repenting to Yahweh Shema Shah. To all the men out there pushing this truth and nothing but the truth in the name, spirit, and power of Yahweh Shema Shah, keep on preaching, keep on teaching, keep your faith and trust strong in Yahweh Shema Shah, and stay humble. And for you few sisters out there taking heed, keep your faith and trust strong. Yahweh Shema Shah. Stay humble, stay in order with your man. If you ain't got no man, stay in order. Yahweh Shema Shah. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect, and all praises to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah. Shalom.